I think we can kind of put a wrap on this Jet Blackhawk collision. Kind of as soon as they finally identify the female pilot, people are like, "Oh, they're not releasing her name. It's a big conspiracy." I don't know if it's they have to make notification first. So if they haven't made notification to her family, they can't. So it's only been 2 days. Sometimes that process takes a little bit. Now, if it's a month later and they still haven't, then I'm going to question it. But there's new video that CNN got from apparently somebody literally filming it on their cell phone as it happened.
These videos obtained exclusively by CNN show previously unseen angles of the collision between an American Airlines flight and a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter. In the first video, the Black Hawk can be seen flying at speed over the Potomac from the
Here's the left
side of the screen.
Black Hawk.
The American Airlines plane can be seen flying towards the airport before the two collide.
Never even. So there's a couple things we could take away from that. Never even tried to move. Never saw it. Didn't even try to turn away at the last second. Literally just converged at that exact moment.
Yeah.
We do also know, based on transponder data, that Black Hawk was at roughly 400 feet. We also know that the flight restriction for flying over the Potomac for helicopters is to never exceed more than 200 feet. That's why this crash happened.
Yeah. Clearly, someone wasn't following the rules here. Now, were they on their cell phone? Were they, occupied with Chi-Com TikTok videos? Or was this a case of potentially someone saying, "I just had enough of life. I'm depressed," which a lot of people are saying, "Screw it. I'm just going to do this," because there are stories of pilots that are.
You're not wrong in speculating that. Daniel, thank you for the gifted subs. Very cool.
Yeah. And again, we're speculating here. We don't know.
I think that if they had planned it, you would have to get incredibly lucky to hit the spot. That plane is traveling 400 miles an hour. Maybe if they had put it into the river or something like that, you could make that argument. But I don't think that that's what happened here.
Yeah, it could have been just a freak accident too.
Yeah. This is a student pilot. This is really the flight instructor's fault for not making sure that they are maintaining their, because when you fly, you know where you're supposed to be. We know, that they know that there's a permanent cap at 200 feet there. It's not like something that just went into effect that day. They're only allowed to fly. And if they were flying at 200 feet, they never would have, it would have been fine.
Yeah. How about we stop flying, student, aircraft next to an airfield, an airport, an active runway.
Yeah. The other thing. The other thing I was going to point out, we also know that at ATC, the person who's in charge of monitoring helicopter traffic was not there. So they had somebody who, normally you have one person that's in charge of monitoring plane traffic, another person that's in charge of monitoring helicopter traffic. And due to staff shortages, that person clocked out 2 hours before, and one person was set to watch both. That seems like a near impossible task to do. Could ATC have stopped this? Possibly. If you looked, I wonder if I saved this. I actually have the helicopters, more like heliflop, no, too soon. The helicopters flight path, and they were over their 200-foot limit for a very long time. So presumably, that person could have, if ATC was paying attention, they might have been able to say, "Hey, whatever their call sign was, JTA 6 or whatever, you're too high, lower," and that call was never made, as far as I know. That's the problem, is that the ATC is supposed to be your backup in most cases. The student pilot, the training pilot, and the helicopter are at fault. They could have been saved the crash could have likely been prevented also if ATC was fully staffed. And that one person who's in charge of watching that one helicopter at that one moment probably would have seen that they were flying too high. So I think that this is literally, unlike Brick Suit's assertion that what happened in Pennsylvania was the Swiss cheese theory. This literally is the Swiss cheese theory.
Yeah. And you could be right.
Action.
And, we saw comments from Donald Trump automatically, obviously, paying respects to what happened here and then kind of starting the conversation and asking the question, was DEI responsible here? I still think it's too early. There's also a lot of fake news. There was an alleged, fake pilot that was named yesterday. I had everyone sending me the story, and I'm like, oh, hey, stop jumping the gun here, okay?
Yeah.
Let's stop. We don't know yet, and
I literally uploaded a video debunking it, and people are still tweeting it like right now.
Exactly. I'm looking at social media right now, and it's not good to spread fake news that's not kind of confirmed here. I had a couple friends literally send this to me. I messaged them this morning being like, okay, this is the stuff that gets you sued. This is the stuff that gets you ruined. This is the stuff that destroys independent media organizations' reputations. And this is why it's important not to have confirmation bias and not to just automatically jump to larger conclusions here. We could start off, conversations and speculate here, but when you start naming actual names and individuals, those people could come after you.
This person is actually alive. Put out a video saying like, no, I wasn't the pilot. Wildly disrespectful to the victims too. Yeah. I know where this originated, and it originated from the worst losers, fake news posters on X. His name starts with an M. All he does, because they just knew. They knew, if it was a trans pilot, it's going to go viral. And I was like, wait a minute. The pilot's name hasn't even been released.
Yeah.
Like,
so
the DOD has not. How do you know?
How did you get the answer? How did you get this kind of information that's not privy to anyone, unless you're working for the kind of federal government out there? So, a lot of people fell for it. Luckily, we didn't here. And we just got to be careful, especially when it comes to trying to be better than the corporate media, because this is the stuff that corporate media does. I'm automatically reminded of when that caller called in to that famous Asian disaster that happened with an aircraft, and he said the names were holy we go down.
We go down.
This is what the corporate media falls for. We got to be better than that. And
this is
I'm happy people are calling it out in real time. I'm happy that, a lot of the large swaths of independent media didn't fall for it, and we should call out the few that did so they don't kind of repeat this kind of mistake and failure once again.
Here's the audio from ATC, by the way.
American 472, Washington, 1 star, 323, 17. Did you see that? 472.
You hear that person in the back? Oh my God. Like, yeah.
Washington, 1 star,
323, 17.
Did you see that? 472.
I mean, this is the fault of the Black Hawk helicopter. The plane was in the right place, and there's almost no chance. If you look at the time that they were converging, there is almost nothing that plane could have done. Black Hawk helicopters, by the way, are difficult to see on purpose. And a lot of this, I'm going to call out a lot of this Monday morning quarterbacking. Like, how could they not see them? Bro, that Black Hawk helicopters are designed to be stealth, right? Like, they have no lights on them.
Yeah, they fly over my house every day. They're over my house, Jeremy.
I mean, in broad daylight. Yeah, in broad daylight, yes, you can see them quite easily. But in the middle of the night, you can't see them. They don't have the same flight lights. People say, well, how could the Black Hawk helicopter not see the plane? Have you ever been on one? Have you ever been on even like any helo? The vision is not great.
Nope.
There's a reason that on these helicopters, they have multiple people whose job it is to be looking around. So I just, there are some, was their altimeter broken? Maybe they thought they were at 200 feet, but they're really at 400 feet. But pilots generally know. I think you would pretty much know where 200 feet is compared to 400 feet. Can you tell the difference between 205 and 195? Probably not. But you know when you're at 400 feet, not 200. Like, that's something you know. I also want to call out a lot of people who know nothing about piloting, saying that 500 hours is not a lot. Yes, it's not a lot in a plane, but 500 hours in helicopter flights is a lot. When you get in a plane and you fly, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours at a time, you rack up thousands of hours. But helicopter flights are often 15 minutes, 20 minutes. The most important time, the most learning is done in a helicopter during takeoff and landing, just like with a plane. 500 hours in a helicopter is probably thousands of flights. And, people are like, oh, she only had 500 hours. Ha, 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 ha. Women, am I right? Her instructor, quote unquote, only had 1,000. So if 1,000 hours is enough for you to be an instructor, 500 hours is certainly no slouch.
Yeah, that's a long time. People don't realize how long that is, especially when it comes to, the time that the aircraft could be up in the air. We have a tweet from Matt Letech, who says that he's a former Black Hawk pilot here, and he's going to, quote, describe it. And he says, quote, imagine you're looking at the world through toilet paper tubes, and everything is just different shades of green and black with stars and ground lights hard to differentiate, and aircraft lights that look the same as those. Then you have 3 different radio frequencies going off in your ear, and then you're trying to navigate without any peripheral vision. And you're trying to keep the aircraft under control. So I think that explains the larger kind of difficulties here that a lot of these pilots are facing. And sadly, these freak accidents do happen. And sometimes the more kind of plausible kind of explanation usually is it. As I know, a lot of people right now are saying, who was on that, aircraft? Was there a special government agent or someone connected to the? We don't know. And automatically a lot of people's minds go to the kind of larger conspiracies here. And we'll find out because sometimes the conspiracies are true, but sometimes they aren't. So it's going to be very interesting to see who was on this Black Hawk flight and what was the
we know
true
2
mission.
of their names.
Yeah,
we know it was only
the
3.
third one.
Yeah, that's the pilot, and it's a female, or the co-pilot. They haven't named the co-pilot. I think that why was there one crew chief? Again, why was there one crew chief? I don't get what the question is. I assume you only have one crew chief. Yeah, there's
people are saying it's kind of strange that we don't know the Black Hawk names yet.
We do know their names.
All 3 of them?
We know 2 of the 3, and the one is a female. And I said we probably don't know her yet because there's been no notification made yet. That's what I'm assuming. Yeah. Ryan O'Hara is one of them. And the other one, I covered this in my video this morning too. I was like, people, they aren't looking for information. We're just so coded to conspiracies because there's no trust in our government. But yeah, the 2 Marines' names were released almost immediately. The 3rd has been withheld so far. Now, again, if they still are withholding it next week, okay, I'll agree. There's something fishy going on. But they need to make family notifications before they can release this kind of stuff. And that's why you haven't seen, nobody's saying, how come we only have 25 of the 60 passengers? Even though we know we have a flight manifest. We know everyone who's on that airplane, but they've only released so many names. That's because family notifications have to be made. And going back to the goggles, you have no peripheral and you have almost no depth perception with NVs. So when you watch that new video, it is very obvious that helicopter never at any time saw that airplane. Even at the moment of impact, it was still flying on that. It was hitting it at parallel or perpendicular. Sorry. It was it never tried to in the plane, probably never saw it either because it came out of its peripheral and it's on its final and the helicopter shouldn't have been there. So, I mean, this is just one of those times where I don't think there's anything weird going on here other than we witnessed literally a 1 in a million. By the way, this happened 24 hours before too. There was another near miss with a helicopter where a plane had to abort landing. That happened 24 hours before too.
Yeah, people would be surprised how many near misses there actually are that, obviously don't make the news, but do happen. Especially when it comes to some of the more kind of questionable hiring practices by the FAA that turned down a lot of applicants just because of the way that they were born. And, seeing their kind of advertisements where they're specifically looking for people with disabilities to do the job. It isn't the best of look here. But I think why we have so many conspiracies is what you mentioned, once again, is that the government routinely just lies to us. They never are fully transparent. They never give us any kind of answers. They never give us any kind of legitimate kind of explanations to a lot of these stuff. They treat us like small children. Like, don't worry, it's fine. Well, we got this under control. They really kind of don't. And when we look at, just what happened just a couple of days ago, specifically with the Cybertruck attack in Las Vegas, there's still so many questions and there's no legitimate answers. As the official story, once again, that has been kind of confirmed here, was that this guy was worried about Chinese drones that were able to fly all over the East Coast of the United States. This week, Donald Trump and his administration came out and they said, yeah, we know the answer to what's happening to these drones. It was Biden and the FAA that, of course, approved them.